Today we're on Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is called Selecting the Topic and Purpose. It says here, our first task to preparing a speech is to select a topic and purpose for speaking that is appropriate to the audience and occasions. It's very important you identify what you want to say, who you want to say, and why. That is your topic and purpose. So there's many different ways to explore topics. And exploring topics is another name for brainstorming. One of the first things you can do is you can pinpoint your personal interest. What are the things that if you had all the time in the world that you could go ahead and do? I'd love to go outside and take pictures of nature. I'd love to go ahead and cook in the kitchen. I love traveling. I love writing. I love poetry. I love movies. These are all the things that are my interest. If you had all the time in the world and there wasn't a clock running, what would be the things that you'd spend your time doing? Those are what your interests are. The second technique for going ahead and selecting a topic is looking and seeing what's happening in the current events. If I was to look in the newspaper today, I would see that our President Trump is in the hospital. He's got the COVID virus. I would see that Ginsburg has passed and they're trying to cram someone into the Supreme Court. I would see the issues of what's happening in Turkey and those poor people in that country that are being killed. And, you know, there's some baseball finals that are being played and all sorts of other things. What is happening when you turn on the newspaper? Turn on the radio, or look in the newspaper. Those can also give you great topics. Let's pretend that you don't have a newspaper. Well, there's a research database that's called the CQ Researcher, and you could go ahead and put in current news topics. If you go to the library database, you can pick CQ Researcher would be an excellent place to. Okay, so we're talking about the CQ Researcher, published weekly, or the CQ Researcher published monthly for trustworthy backgrounds on pressing social environmental issues. There's also a thing that you can do on surveying grassroots issues. There's some excellent organizations that our book goes ahead and talks to. But what you want to stay clear of those overused topics. You know, 7 ways to go ahead and get healthy. You know, should we change the drinking age? If you want to look at the topic of marijuana, why not go ahead and look at the topic is it overregulated? Is it underregulated? How is marijuana different today than it was many years ago? In our book, it goes ahead and it talks about identifying topics. So once again, it gives you a list of your favorite activities. I love swimming. I love photography. I love getting dressed up. I love going to Hollywood events, and I love getting in front of TV stations and cooking and traveling. And then it says personal experiences. So what I want you to do is I want you to do this exercise. I want you to write down an I and I want you to write down an E. And I are the things you're interested in, and an E is a thing for your experiences. For my interest, I have photography, I have writing, I have writing, cooking, photography, traveling. Then for the E, I want you to write your experiences. I've traveled in a group called Up With People. Scoliosis runs through my family. Dementia runs through my family. I've traveled in a group called Up With People. I've been an author in 3 books, and I've actually traveled to Europe to go ahead and do one of my book reviews. I have a station on IGTV that's running on Spectrum and all sorts of other amazing things. Those are my experiences. You can then write about your values. The values are your things that your parents have given you. Trustworthy, honesty, philanthropy, social activism, and your goals. You know, my goal is someday I'm going to speak in front of thousands and thousands and thousands of people. I'm going to be doing my meditation exercises, and you say it, you believe it, you can make it happen. I've got 3 books. I've got another one that's going to be coming up and out there. The first one is called Dogs and Roses, How to Reduce Stress and Anxiety in Today's Troubled Times. My last one was called, that was the last one. Before that was Random Acts of Kindness. I'm soon to be publishing one called A Message for Tomorrow's Leaders. And last but not least is flowers, food, and my furry friends. That's on my goal list, and the rest is history. Those are things that I'm looking towards in the future. It also goes ahead and lists subject interest. I want to know what's going to happen on the Supreme Court. I want to know what's going to happen in Turkey. I know what's going to happen in this election. Is it going to be fair, or is it going to be another case of the past? What is going to happen in our world? What are social problems? Road rage, bullying, gun violence, unemployment, racism. What about all the things that have been happening in the pandemic? Health and nutrition. I want you to look at me here. I'm fairly skinny here, but yes, I too suffer from heart disease and diabetes. Why? Because it runs in my family. My mother has had dementia. My mother also had some other diseases. What are the diets and exercises that you can do? There's a book that's called Sugar Blues about the food that you eat that can help you in the future. What are the current events? Pending lactation, political races, climate and biodiversity, same-sex marriage. And then there are grassroots issues. Student loans, safer schools, new or unusual angles. What about crime? What happens on crime? Scandals, conspiracy theories, issues of controversy, corporate personhood, medical marijuana, concealed handguns. And then you can do this process called brainstorming. Brainstorming has the following ingredients. You don't set amount of time. You don't cross any ideas off. You simply write and write and write. And then when you come up with a list, here's what I want you to do with that list. Go ahead and write down all the ideas that come to your mind with all the interests that you have, an I for interest and an E for experiences. Give yourself 2 minutes. And when it's done, I want you to do this. Look at that list that you have. And with the list that you have, I want you to think about the people in your audience, because whenever you give a speech, you need to think about those people in the audience. And if there's a speech in there that you might want to go ahead and do, then you have my permission to go ahead and drop off one of those ideas off the list. I once had a lady who gave a speech about a wedding dress, and you might say, well, what's wrong with the wedding dress? When you give a speech about the wedding dress, they want to know about the wedding. Well, she loved making that wedding dress, but she wasn't happy about the fact that she got divorced. So if there's one of those topics you'd rather not talk about, cross it off. Now, when you go ahead and you cross off those ideas, you're going to go ahead and you're going to come down to a narrowing process. When we come down to that narrowing process, it's almost like what you do using the internet tools. And when you narrow down that process, I want you to put letters by the A, all the things that are similar. So I have my interest in the environment, but the environment could also be related to those diseases I have. So I'm going to put that as a letter 1. I talked about Hollywood. Well, Hollywood is related to that fact of up with people, and that would be a B. So we're going to come up with the A's and the B's. Once you've done that, I want you to look at your I list, and I want you to look at your E list, and pick one topic on each. The I is actually your informative topic, and the E is actually your persuasive topic. Now, when you have those topics, you're going to have 3 classifications. The first thing you're going to have is a general purpose. The general purpose, like I said, we have the informative speech, and then we have the persuasive speech. That's the one where you change someone's mind. And informative speech teaches, tells someone, shares some information with them. The last category we have is a special occasion speech. In that special occasion speech, we could be entertaining, we could be celebrating, we could be commemorating. That is called the general purpose. The next thing you have, you want to narrow your topic down. I like to think about the topoi methods. That is what reporters do. It's the who, what, the when, the where, the why, the how. So you take that topics of scoliosis and we look at the past, we look at the present, we look at the future. We look at who got it, when they get it, what's happening, why. And when you go through that process, you're narrowing it down. And when you narrow that topic down, you could look at Macintosh, you could look at Windows, and this would be ways that you could narrow down that topic. You go the who, the what, the where, the why. You come up with a specific purpose. A specific purpose lays out precisely what you want the audience to take away from your speech. So if I was giving a speech on my favorite topic of scoliosis, I would tell you, I want to inform you how scoliosis at the age of 15 affected my life 40 years later and turned into arthritis and bone spurs. That would be my specific purpose. Now, in our book, it asks us the question, when you're narrowing your topic, what is my audience most likely to know about the subject? What do my listeners most likely want to learn? What aspects are most relevant? Can I develop the topic using 2 or 3 main points? Remember this. Every speech has at least 2 to 3 main points. And how can I competently research and report on this? Now, when you have a thesis statement is a central idea. It's the theme of what the speech is all about. The specific purpose describes in actions what you want to achieve, and the thesis identifies in a single sentence what the speech is about. I like to say specific purpose, remember the one, it's single, and the thesis, remember the number 2. The thesis talks about the 2 things that you're going to go ahead and talk about. So if we have my specific topic is on service learning, and I'm going to persuade them that the benefits are beneficial for getting employment for after school, that is the specific purpose. When you look at the thesis, we're going to talk about how it can prepare you for a difficult job market, how it can enhance your resume, making a significant difference, and take 1 or more service learning. Notice how that talks about 2 or 3 ideas. That's what a thesis does. It takes that specific purpose and it branches it out to exactly what you want to do. So if you go in our textbook, it's going to go ahead and share how you can narrow down that topic, and it's going ahead and using a chart of a case study. It's going ahead and using a student council, 25 members of a class, and it's going to help you out. So remember, the most important key concepts from this term are, what is a general purpose? There are 3 general purposes: to inform, to persuade, and a special occasion. Know the definition of what is a specific goal. Specific goal is 1 sentence that identifies what you're talking about, what the speech is about, and the thesis branches out. These are the important terms that you need to know. Thank you so much, and that is Chapter 7.